All year, I kicked off this leg workout with lying leg curls. Putting them first was an absolute game changer for how my knees feel when I squat.
This is a smart move to start on, and a move that more lifters should consider. Starting with leg curls not only pre-fatigues the hamstrings to get more out of a lesser load later, but it also primes the knee joint by warming up the surrounding soft tissue, especially if you've had cranky knees during squats. This could be a real fix.
By doing them first, not only do you prioritize your hamstrings, which is a muscle that a lot of bros neglect, but you also get your knees and soft tissues nice and warmed up for the rest of the workout.
Starting with curls gives them the attention they deserve and also sets you up for safer, more efficient compound lifts. It's not just about injury prevention either. Activating the posterior chain early can actually improve squat mechanics.
Now, why did I pick the lying leg curl over the seated leg curl? Well, most of you have probably heard me talk about this study before, which showed that across 12 weeks, seated leg curls caused 1.6 times more hamstrings growth than lying leg curls.
That study's a classic, and it highlights how training muscles at longer lengths tend to produce more muscle growth. Seated leg curls stretch the hamstring more up the hips, so stimulus is greater. That said, laying leg curls still absolutely have a place, especially those focusing on knee-friendly sequences or using them as just an activation tool earlier in the session.
Now, the main technique difference that I made this year was doing lengthened partials at the end of every last set. So once I couldn't get the pad all the way up, I kept going with partial reps. This works great because of the strength curve of the hamstrings. You'll find that as you get close to failure, you're still really strong in the bottom half, but you can't get the weight all the way up. So we can leverage that by using partial reps at the end.
Partial reps in the stretch position creates massive tension where the muscle is still capable of output, and that's a hypertrophy goldmine. It's a smart way to extend the set, increase mechanical tension, and get more growth without adding junk volume. Have you ever tried starting your leg day with a hamstring curl? Drop a comment below if this tip helps out your knees or your squat form.
Okay, this is where the real heavy overloading starts. 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps on the pendulum squat.
Now we're entering serious hypertrophy territory. Low rep, high workout on the pendulum squat is brutal in the best way. This rep range is ideal for building strength and size simultaneously, especially when paired with a machine that emphasizes the quads through such a deep and challenging range of motion.
This was easily my #1 quad builder for my year-long experiment. And of course, it's not just for the quads. Like any squat, it'll also smash the glutes and the adductor muscles of the inner thighs.
The pendulum squat's strengths lie in its ability to load the quads intensely while recruiting the full lower body. The fixed part and stability allow for a deeper squat than many people could get with a barbell. And that depth is exactly what stimulates not only the quads, but the glutes and the adductors too.
Because you not only get low back support like on a hack squat, but pendulum squats are notoriously harder at full depth. So you have to fight more to get out of the bottom. This gives you a massive growth stimulus for the quads.
So that deep bottom end challenge is what sets the pendulum apart. Unlike some machines that unload at the hardest part of the lift, this one forces you to generate real power out of the hole. That mechanical tension under strength is one of the most potent drivers of muscle growth, especially for quads.
Your quads should feel lit up even after just 1 set, and that's exactly why you don't want to push every set all the way to failure on these. So leave 1 or 2 reps in the tank for the first couple sets. This will still deliver a gigantic quad stimulus without hurting your performance for the subsequent sets. Then on the last set, I really hype myself up and give it everything I've got.
Saving a little gas in the tank early on preserves performance across multiple sets, which means better total volume and better recovery. Then emptying the tank on the final set capitalizes on all the accumulated fatigue and really drives adaptation.
But remember that with the pendulum squat in particular, it will feel very hard in the bottom, especially as you approach failure. So even if it feels like you can't get the weight up, keep pushing. If you can just get through that sticking point near the bottom, you will be able to get all the way up and finish the rep.
So the bottom end grind is a mental battle, but that's where the growth is, both physically and psychologically. Staying locked in and pushing through that sticking point builds grit and makes sure you're not tapping into the most demanding and productive part of the rep.
When it comes to hamstrings growth, I do think the tried and true Romanian deadlift made the biggest difference for me this year.
So RDLs are a powerhouse for posterior chain development. When done properly, they provide intense tension through the entire length of the hamstring, especially in the stretch position. The long length loading is one of the most potent hypertrophy stimuli, which makes RDLs a no-brainer in any serious hamstring program.
And this exercise obviously complements our hamstrings exercise from earlier, since the leg curl trains knee flexion, while the RDL trains hip extension. And those are the 2 functions of the hamstrings.
So this combo is a gold standard for complete hamstring development. You need both joint actions to fully stimulate the muscle. Leg curls hit the short head and target the hammies from one angle, but RDLs finish finish the job by emphasizing the stretch and activating the long head through hip extension.
The main cue you want to focus on here is pushing your glutes straight back. That keeps the movement a true hip hinge and prevents you from turning it into a squat. I also keep a slight knee bend on these, but don't let my knees drift forward. Just enough of a bend to keep stress off my knee joints and keep tension on the muscle.
So the glute back cue helps you stay in that proper hinge pattern, which is key for loading the hamstrings effectively. Letting the knees bend slightly without tracking forward protects the joints while ensuring the tension stays where it should. It's the small details that make a big difference.
You want to keep your back tight, keep the bar in close to your body, and only lower it as far as you comfortably can while maintaining a neutral spine and keeping tension on your hamstrings. For me, I usually stop just below knee level, and as long as I'm maintaining that neutral lower back, I can get an amazing hamstring stretch without needing to go any lower.
A tight back and a close bar path reduce strain and increase control while stopping just below the knees helps preserve spinal alignment. You don't need to touch the floor to make RDLs effective. In fact, going too low could shift the emphasis away from the hamstring and compromise your position. Try combining the leg curl and the RDL and let me know in the comments how you get on.
I really think the best isolation exercise for the quads is, of course, the leg extension.
I totally agree. The leg extensions are unmatched when it comes to isolating the quads. They're one of the few movements that you can fully contract the muscles at the top and keep the tension throughout the whole range of motion. If you're chasing that deep quad burn, this is a go-to.
And it complements the compound pendulum squat that we did earlier very nicely because it actually hits the big, long rectus femoris head of the quads harder than any squat variation will.
Exactly, I normally pair this with the leg press or the hack squat for this specific reason. Squat and presses hit the vastus muscles hard, but the leg extension is perfect for dialing in on the rectus femoris, which often gets overlooked in compound lifts. The synergy between these movements makes for a seriously complete quad session.
On a leg extension, your hips are fixed, which means the rectus femoris will actually stretch and squeeze. And research backs this up. A 2021 study found that across 5 weeks of training, Smith machine squats didn't grow the rectus femoris, but leg extensions did.
So that study has seriously shifted how a lot of people approach their quad training. Since the rectus femoris crosses both the hip and knee, locking the hips in place like you do with the leg extension is key to fully loading it through both stretch and contraction.
The main technique difference that I made this year was setting the seat back as far as I could get it. This was shown in a new 2024 study to cause about 170% more quad growth than the standard upright seat position.
So this is a massive game changer. By slightly reclining your seat, this increases hip flexion, which stretches the rectus femoris even at the bottom of the rep, puts it under more tension in the lengthened position, exactly where we want it for hypertrophy. This is one of those small setup tweaks that pays off big time over consistent training. For that tip there, give this video a thumbs up and try this tweak out next time you're using the leg extension.
If you want to take it up another notch, you can try doing a slow 3-second eccentric. That isn't because slow eccentrics are inherently better for muscle growth, but they will allow you to get the same quad stimulus with slightly lighter loads, which might ease up some of the strain on your knees.
That's a great point. It's not about dragging out every rep for the sake of it, but slowing down the eccentric gives you more time under tension and keeps you honest with your form. It also helps protect the joints while maximizing muscle engagement, especially on leg extension. That controlled lowering phase really lights up the quads.
We're going to hop into some glute isolation work on the hip abduction machine next. Up until the last month or two, I always did these leaning forward because conventional wisdom said that leaning forward should stretch the glute medius better. However, I recently started doing them like this, with my hips extended.
The abduction machine is often overlooked or treated like a finisher, but if you approach it with intent, it's a powerful tool for isolating the glute medius and minimus, especially after heavier compound lifts. Leaning forward could shift some of the work away from the glutes onto other muscles like the hamstrings. Keeping your hips extended helps maintain proper glute activation by keeping the muscle fibers in a stronger, more effective position throughout the whole movement.
So, since we already smashed the glute max pretty hard on the pendulum squat and the RDL, let's do these with straight extended hips and really focus on stimulating those upper glute medius fibers.
Exactly, after loading the glute max with heavy hinge and squat patterns, this is a great way to isolate your upper glutes and round out the session. Extended hip position keeps the tension right where you want it on the glute medius and helps refine shape and stability around the hips, which also carries over for better squatting and running mechanics.
Okay, and at this point in the workout, you'll probably want to skip calves, but I promise you, that is the main reason they're not growing. So find a good straight leg calf raise that you feel well and push it hard for 8 to 10 reps.
So true, I'm really guilty of skipping calves more often than I should. But the truth is, like anything else, consistency and effort are the missing pieces for most lifters. A straight leg calf raise is especially effective since it targets the gastrocnemius more directly. Just treat them like any other major muscle group. Go heavy, train hard, and go deliberate.
Emphasizing the deep, stretched part of the range of motion. If calves are a priority for you, you could even put them first in the workout so you're less tempted to skip them.
So that deep stretch is exactly where the magic happens. Putting calves at the beginning of a session, especially leg day, is a game changer. You'll have more energy, better focus, and can give them the effort they actually need to grow. If they're a weak point, treat them like one and prioritize them. That is something that I personally need to take from Jeff's book and start implementing on my leg days.
A growing pile of data that a deep stretch is crucial for forcing new calf growth. You don't even need to go all the way up onto your toes either. Just rotate up and down on the balls of your feet. And try this. At the end of your last set, sink into the bottom stretch position and hold it for 30 seconds. It might feel like your Achilles tendon is going to snap, but trust me, it won't. And this stretch under load stimulus seems to be especially effective for calf hypertrophy.
This stretch under load method is gaining a lot of traction in both the research and bodybuilding world. Holding that bottom stretch under tension creates a potent hypertrophy stimulus, especially for a muscle group like the calves that respond well to high mechanical tension. It's brutal, but if you're stuck on your calf progress, this could be the breakthrough we need to grow it. So try the stretch under load technique and let me know how it goes for you. So Jeff Nippard's leg day, what he was doing for the last year, is now on the screen. Let me know if you'll swap anything out. Let me know if you're surprised not to see any exercises in there. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and watch this next video.